Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Black Library recently released half a dozen Tyranid focused short stories, and today we're going to take a look to see if they're any good. Starting off with Blood Harvest by Richard Swan. This one is about people on an agri-world that gets attacked by a horde of Tyranids. They team up with a stormtrooper and together they kill some Tyranids, while trying to get to the center of human resistance. I can't say I actively dislike this one, but it is just so extremely basic and uninteresting that I don't see why you would buy this. Plain boring people with no characterization shooting at some generic Tyranids. At least introduce one of the more interesting nids like a Lictor or some Barbgons. This would have been a cool moment to show off one of the newer additions to the range, but alas. One weird thing though is how nice and friendly the Stormtrooper is and how unmotivating the Commissar is. Usually it's the other way around, with psychopaths being drafted for the Scions. A bit better fortunately is Devil Hunter by Nicholas Wolfe. This one follows a man whose planet has been assimilated by the Tau. They allow him to choose between joining the anti-Tyranid war effort or seeing his family joining the soil. And naturally he signed up and he is now part of a task force of Tau under the command of someone called Devil Hunter. I like how this explores some of the racism and cultural friction that is likely to exist between the diverse troops of the Tau. I also like that his story actually features a cool bioform and how it portrays it in a very creepy manner. What does hinder my enjoyment a bit is that the Tau are written like Imperials, with the exact same level of incompetence and tyranny. The Crude is also written like a complete retard, and if you name change him to an Ogrin, the story would basically be the same. The biggest flaw, however, is that every plot twist is announced so far in advance by obvious signs that the story becomes very predictable. I mean, the Crude is called Sick, for fuck's sake. Guess what will happen to that guy? But by far the worst out of these shorts is the Devouring Void by Danny Ware. It's about a ship that is being attacked by Tyranids. There's an Inquisitor, there's a rogue Psyker, there are boarding actions, there's a secret conspiracy, and yet it is boring beyond belief. We get a lot of unimaginative bolter porn, some dumb metaphors, and not a single cool Tyranid or Psyker moment. I read this on the train back from work and legitimately fell asleep, which I think says quite a lot. These short stories aren't the best thing ever, but this one really stands out as being shit. Convocation by Timmy Nicholas, meanwhile, stands out on the other side of the spectrum and had the potential to be really good. This one is about a group of Imperial Navy soldiers that are tasked with investigating a potential mutiny or infection on another Imperial ship. This story does a great job at making you care about the main cast by introducing some interpersonal relationships between the soldiers and by exploring some of their backstory and personality. They then go into a Genestealer infected ship and there are some really cool horror elements mixed with some very nice dialogue that fits the characters. Yet what partially ruins it for me is the attempts at impersonating Graham McNeil by introducing one-liners. Because boy oh boy do they fall flat. They feel extremely shoehorned in and make the ending feel really abrupt. Yet it would be interesting to see this author write some more Genestealer or Navy stuff because I really like the short story outside of that. Then finally we have The Long and Hungry Road by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which I think was clearly the story most people were excited for after seeing the name of the author. This story starts off a bit boring in the sense that it is the exact same as his book Day of Ascension. I mean, following cultists of a Genestealer cult is great, but the real novel does this better. However, what makes this short story great is the parts written from the perspective of the hive mind. The hive mind is written as a predatory animal directed by hunger and rewarded with pleasurable feelings upon assimilating biomass. It is completely uncaring for the death it brings. In fact, it doesn't even really register what it is doing. It simply scours the galaxy looking for food, like a starving animal, and the Tyranids work like an extension of it. Troop losses register like an itch or pain in the case of heavy losses, and a combination of instinct and pheromones directs the deployment of troops. It is all very alien, very scary, and very awesome. I also like how we see the world slowly being consumed by digestive fungi and parasites while the humans are still on it. Kinda gave me Gloomspite vibes, and that is definitely a good thing. I definitely recommend this last one for Tyranid fans who prefer a more alien hive mind than the one we saw in Haley's work. So altogether, I would say it is definitely worth reading Convocation and Hungry Road. The Tau and the Agri-World stories can be read if you really like Tyranids, but I would definitely skip the Devouring Void. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. If you like the content, please consider subscribing or joining us on Patreon. Otherwise, have a nice evening and don't forget your nightly prayers. Doonagash.